At the end of the year, I was able to meet Belichick finally. I had taken my 1980 football ticket stubs to show him, and I said, "Hey, Coach, this was the last year we won the championship." And I said, "We had a really good." And then he cut me off and started telling the things I was going to tell him. He started feeding it back to me. He goes, he goes, "Yo, you had a great defense with Lawrence Taylor. You only gave up 120 points for the season, and 45 of those were against Oklahoma away. And you had this player and that player." And I was like a little bit blown away because I had all this
North
stuff I
Carolina
was going
football
to tell
history.
him, and he'd already memorized it all.
What's going on, Tar Heel Nation? Jeff with the Hill Brothers. Excuse the voice. I'm gonna power through, but I got rid of a cold and somehow I feel fine, but somehow the bad voice is held on. Anyway, got a really special guest this week to talk to us about his book and his adventures. Deniis Goss, great to have you on, man. This is something. When I saw you put the book out, put the book out, and I ordered it, and it came. I think it came the 3rd. And as soon as I got it, I hit Nathan. I texted Nathan, and I said, "This is. I think this is worth getting on. I think Deniis is worth talking to and getting on. Number one, just to hear you talk about it. Number two, maybe give you a little bit of publicity for it, especially since the proceeds are going to the Children's Hospital, UNC Children's Hospital. Which, man, that's fantastic. Definitely worth trying to get behind that. But I became aware. I know, and I know you'll talk about this, but I know you initially set your goal as 100 at 100 games, and I was like, that's that. First of all, it's nice to be able to do that. I have the time and go. I go to as many as I can. I don't even come close to touching that. I at least make it a goal every year to hit at least one of everything. And that's the goal I have every year. And more often than not, I've been able to hit that. But starting out with 100. So just I'm gonna jump right in. Why? What got you into this? Where'd the idea come from?
Yeah. So, Jeff, first of all, just thank you and to the Hills Brothers for inviting me into your forum this evening. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys, and I'm excited still about going to all these Carolina games. So, I actually retired in June of 2024 after 40 plus years at a company, and the advice that everyone gave me was, you need to have a project that you're passionate about, find a hobby. You need to do something with your time, otherwise you'll go stir crazy. And so I knew in my heart what I loved to do more than anything was going to Carolina games. And so I set as a goal, like without thinking about it much, I'm going to go to 100 things. And so that was one motivation. I recall, when Roy Williams was the basketball coach, he would always show up at a lot of our Olympic sports, and support the coaches and the teams. And so that was always impressive to me. Here he is, Hall of Fame coach, and he's at the volleyball game or the women's basketball game or the lacrosse games. I just thought it was awesome for him to, even though I'm sure his time was super valuable and he could have spent it doing a lot of other things like golfing for one, but he chose to support all these Olympic sports, and I just thought that was incredible. I recall he gave money to the rowing team to give them a boat, and one of the things I saw when I was out, doing rowing this past season was there was a boat, and it's called the Wicked Wanda. That's actually the name on the boat. So super cool. And then I had another friend, Rusty Sebastian, who retired 2 or 3 years before me. And I just saw how carefree he was going to all these games. And nothing got in his way. If, the Heels were going to the College World Series, he would just pack a suitcase, get in his car and drive up there and stay until, the Heels were done. And, it just seemed like he was living a very free and easy lifestyle. Nothing stressed him. And he was going to a lot of these games. So I wanted to emulate Rusty quite a bit. And, Jeff, I've seen you at a lot of these events too for many, many years before I actually met you to know you. And so I know you've been going to a lot of these events as well. But So that was really my motivation. It was something to do in year one of retirement, and I could never have done this, working a full time job or even a part time job. And so that made it easy for me time wise. Also had the advantage of living pretty close to campus. I'm about a mile from campus, and I
That
mean
was
I
my
can walk
question.
to the steps of Carmichael in about 17 minutes. Bosshammer Stadium in 22 minutes. Keenan Stadium 25 minutes. So a lot of venues I can get to pretty easily. So even if parking's an issue, I can still walk up. So I started off, in mid-August. There was like a doubleheader day right off the bat. There was a women's soccer exhibition and a men's soccer exhibition on the same day.
Mhm.
And so inside the 225, I count, like all of the regular season games that I went to, but also if there was an exhibition game that was published and on the schedule, or like a fall ball or a spring ball or a spring game. I counted those as long as they were published and on the exhibition. But I did have a caveat of, I needed to be there for substantially the whole game. So there wasn't any idea of, oh, I'll go here for 5 minutes, snap a selfie, and
Right,
leave.
right. Just got a
I
game this.
I
Yeah.
do.
Okay.
I never did anything like that. So
Yeah.
one of the ways I publicized my journey was at the end of each game, I would take a selfie of like part of my head and the scoreboard in the background, and then I would post that on X. So that's what I did on game one. And then game two, I labeled it event two, and I daisy chained it so that they're all 225 of them are connected.
All in a thread. Yeah. Yep.
If anybody's curious on the sequence of events, they could go and just scroll and scroll and scroll
Mhm.
and see all of those exhibits on X. So anyway, I got into it in early August, and one of the things I saw right off the bat was the retirement of Anson Dorrance. That was a big deal because he had been the coach for 40 plus years, and it was such an unusual year for the Heels because Anson retired. They didn't immediately name Damon Nahas as the head coach. He was an interim
Mhm.
guy, and just that program had so much turmoil with. They had like 11 players went pro. They had about 9 players that went left in the transfer portal. I mean, they had to pull players from the club team to have enough to practice with there in the summer. So they got some portal players as well, and just the way that whole season came together was just incredible. But on one of those early events, there was Anson Dorrance. He had just retired. He was sitting in those stands with his wife, Melissa, and he was still yelling out, instructions to the team. And they were like still doing what he said to do, because he was very, very loud.
Old
So
habits
that
die
was a,
hard, man. Right.
yeah. So that was
Yeah.
a fun early event. I know, then we get into the football season. Of course, we had the Mac Brown firing, and I talk about
Mhm.
that a little bit in the book. I think probably wasn't handled the best way it could have been. I'm not saying it wasn't needed or necessary or justified. I'm just saying it could have
Right.
been
You're
handled differently.
100% correct. Yeah, you're 100% right there on
I,
both
I felt
accounts. I
like
think.
I felt like that affected our performance in the NC State game. Not that we'd have won anyway,
Mhm.
uh, but something happened there. I also mention in the book about the women's soccer, the College Cup. Those two games. Those are probably my favorite two events of the year. It was
Awesome.
about in the semifinal against Duke. We got 3 goals on them and really um, hit them hard. And their coach Robbie Church, he was doing the Coach K model of I'm going to announce at the beginning of the season that I'm retiring at the end of the season. And so that way everybody can, pay homage to me
Woo!
during the
Get your
year and
retirement
give me
tour and all that
give
junk.
me gifts. And they were ranked number one during the season for a lot of the season. And so here comes interim coach Nahas, and we kicked their butts. And so it was so much like Hubert Davis as year one coach beating Coach K and ending his career. I love the
Yeah.
corollary there of how similar those things were. And then in the final game being Wake Forest 1-0, that Duke game, it was about 26 degrees that night, and I had on like 7 layers of clothes over at the Wake Soccer Park.
Yeah.
but it was well worth it. And then in the final game, after we won, I had my UNC flag and I held that up and was waving it, and I ended up getting on the ESPNU coverage
Yep.
towards the end of the game. So that was quite fun. And then, Jeff, one of the things I did to keep myself aware of all these games is, and I know this will make me sound like a geek, which is, partly true, but I put all the schedules in a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet. So I had the sports as the columns and had the days as the rows. And as each sport announced its schedule for the fall and then the spring, I went and added that into my spreadsheet so that I could look a week ahead at a time and say, how can I get to the most events? What's the best use of my time? And it also pointed out a ton of overlaps, which was, I had no idea how many overlaps there were, like especially if baseball and softball have a lot of overlaps. Like,
Yep.
if they have 45 games in baseball, like 30 of them overlap with at least in part, if not the exact same start time, staggered by an hour. So
Yep.
that kind of kills your ability to do both.
Mhm.
So I was disappointed about that, and I didn't really know what to expect. But keeping the spreadsheet going during the year, that really was a valuable tool because I could plan it out week by week, what to go see. The other thing I did, and I did count some in the 225 total, was some away games. So I was able to make it to Duke men's and women's soccer, fencing at Duke. I went to the ACC field hockey tournament that was in Winston-Salem. Of course, the women's rowing events at Lake Wheeler and Raleigh.
Yep.
The College Cup in Cary. There were some tennis matches in Cary. So I did get, I think of the 225, I think 190 roughly were home games in Chapel Hill, and the other 30 some were road games.
That's awesome.
Went to baseball at Durham Bulls Park. Obviously, the ACC tournament was held there. That was a huge event.
Yep.
I went to baseball at Elon. Very close by away games. So
Yep.
I did capture some close by away games.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Another side goal I had was to go to all 28 sports. You talked about that. That was important to me to try to hit all 28 because some of these I'd never even been to. I had never been to a rowing event. In fact, I thought they were still like using University Lake as their home base, but found out 5 years ago they moved to Jordan Lake to Crosswinds Marina near Apex. And so I found my way there for an exhibition match against High Point U. And, the folks there were just so nice and welcoming. I got to go on one of the coaches' boats out into Jordan Lake because you can't really see the match or the meet from the shore, because they leave the dock and go up a finger so they can get like a 2-kilometer course. But it was so much fun to be on the boat, kind of stationary at the finish line, seeing the boats come down and finish because they're sprinting hard at the end. So that was a lot of fun. And then, so we get to like the end of December, and I'd already been to 90 events. So I'm like, 100 was too easy.
I remember seeing that, and I remember seeing that on Twitter when you hit that. And I was like, "Oh man, what's I gonna do now?"
I got lucky because like the women's soccer team was ranked highly, and they did like their first 4 rounds were all at home, and then 2 in Cary. This year was all away games, and the cup was in like Kansas City or somewhere. So also the ACC tournament for field hockey was in Winston-Salem, and they hosted the first round at Karen Shelton Stadium. So that's like a lot of extra games I was able to get to just by luck of the schedule. Also the for cross country, the ACC tournament was also at the Wake Med Soccer Park, and there's like one cross country meet a year that is somewhere close by, and so I lucked out in getting to go to the ACC tournament.
That's a hard one. That's a hard one to do. That's the hardest one. I think that might be the hardest one to actually be able to go to. That's one I haven't hit. So
Yeah.
that's one that I haven't hit because of like you talking about. It's hard to do. So
Yeah. So anyway, given that I was at 90, I said, okay, I'll make a New Year's resolution and do 150 now as the goal. A lot of people were pushing me, you should do 200, go for the stars. And so I not all of the spring sports calendars were out yet, so I was a little hesitant. I mean, I didn't want
mhm.
to set a number and then miss, of course. And so I did conservatively 150, but then, I saw by February I was at the 150 mark. So I think event number 100 was the men's basketball game against Stanford, like mid-January.
Mhm.
So that was a lot of fun. I got to event 200 was UNC versus NC State softball game, like in April. Um, and Jeff, one day I was at like a field hockey exhibition game, and I was talking to Coach Matson's parents, and I was saying, yeah, I think I'm like 180 right now, and another couple weeks I'll be at 200. And a gentleman tapped me on the shoulder and said, that told me he was like Dr. T with the UNC School of Journalism Sports Extra uh, program. And he wanted to
Mhm.
know if I'd be willing to do an interview with a student about my journey. And so I said, yeah, sure. And so he had a volunteer that came and met me at a lacrosse game and then followed me to a baseball game right after and, took some footage of me. And so at the end of the semester in May, like their last weekly episode, I had like a 90-second snippet about me on the UNC Sports Extra as done by a student. I thought they really captured what I was about, very, very well. So that was a fun thing that happened along the way. Going to the ACC tournament for baseball at the Durham Bulls Athletic Park, that was super fun because UNC did so well. You know, beat Florida State, who was a very tough team, and then also knocked out Clemson. That was kind of a blowout,
Mhm.
but that was such a fun series at Durham Bulls Athletic Park. I really enjoyed that one there. And then while we were there, the women's lacrosse was in the national championship semifinal and finals during that, and so everybody was following that on their phones as well.
Mhm.
Um, and fortunately they won huge over Florida. Got like what was that 20 consecutive goals or more
Yeah.
unanswered, and beat Florida, and then knocked out I think it was Northwestern in the final. So
Yep.
ended up undefeated. Great season. They have this great story about the cash register. I don't know if you heard about that one, but
Mhm.
so in the year before, UNC women's lacrosse had so many injuries, and so they were losing to a lot of teams that normally they don't lose to, and all of those teams were like making a big deal out of it. They were like going crazy on social media. Oh, we beat Carolina lacrosse,
Mhm.
and so the team was like keeping receipts of all these outlandish celebrations. And
Mhm.
so somewhere in the preseason, someone sent to Coach Levy one of these old timey metal cash registers. She said it weighed like 200 pounds.
Wow.
And so as they would defeat each team that and get revenge on them, they would, take one of those clippings and put it in and, ring out the cash register.
Mhm.
So that was, their
You gotta
thing
love
for
it.
the year is,
You gotta love it.
cashing
Yep.
receipts.
You gotta love it.
So what a great story. I love that story from, Coach Levy. And then we get into June, and Carolina's hosting the regionals and wins, and the super regionals versus Arizona. That was a crushing blow to lose to
Mhm.
Arizona that way, especially after we
Yep.
won game one. And I was so looking forward to going to Omaha for the College World Series because that would have been like the perfect ending
Oh man.
for the book.
Mhm.
It would have made it even better. Plus, it would have given me another 2, 3, 4, 5 games. Who knows how many?
Yep.
Um, yeah. So anyway, that's. I was very saddened when we ended up losing that game, and it just kind of hit me really hard, that day. It's like, okay, no more events this year. We're
I'm
going
done.
to 225.
That's yeah. I was now you made me think about it and start reliving that again. Yeah, baseball, and I think I've said you know wrestling, volleyball, and baseball. If I had to pick like my favorite of all Carolina sports, those three are my favorites, and a lot of my baseball love is my daughter. Loves baseball. Loves. I mean, she
Right.
fell in love with Carolina baseball and stuff, and she would go to most of the games with me, and she was actually that that weekend. It was so hot outside. She actually got heat exhaustion at the
Oh my
second
God.
game during the second game, and
Oh, that's great.
she wouldn't let me leave. She didn't want to leave. She wouldn't let me leave. She sat up. She sat up on one of the benches right behind our section, in the concourse. There was a lady that was sitting there, and she was nice enough, to move over and let Kirby sit down there with her and everything. But yeah, she wouldn't let me leave, and she missed the last game. The Sunday game we just wouldn't let her go to. We were just like, nah, because we were getting ready. Our yearly family vacation to Florida. We were leaving that next day, that Monday.
Okay.
So she was yeah, she stayed home on that one and missed it, but she was crushed, man. It killed
Yeah,
her.
those were
Um,
some really hot days, though. So I recall those quite well. I think I sweat through my t-shirt and jersey, like in the first 30,
so,
40, 45
mhm.
minutes.
Before the game even started, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Jeff, in the book, so I chronicle all of these 225 events. I include like a bunch of little snippets of things I
Mhm.
ran into that I thought were interesting. At one of these early volleyball games, I have like a little 3-inch by 5-inch notebook, and I was
Yep.
like taking notes of what I saw. And a neighbor was there sitting in front of me, and he turned around and looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm trying to get to 100 events, and I'm just making notes on what I see and hear, and just anything of interest that to keep track of." And he goes, "Well, you should write a book about this. That sounds like a really fun thing." And I said, "Dan, nobody's going to buy a book like this." And "But Dennis, there's always Amazon self-publish."
There you go.
So I resisted the idea for at least a month, and I kept thinking, why not? So I ended up kind of writing it along the way. So like each week, I would try to have summarized what happened in the games of the week.
Mhm.
But then also in the book, I've included a number of stories from my own Carolina experience. So for example, I open up with kind of how I got hooked on Carolina back in the beginning. So for me, the first event I ever went to was in 1974. It was the Carolina Duke football game. And I was living in Apex at the time, and a neighbor invited me. He had a neighbor that was, big in the Rams club. And so here we go to this game I'd never been before. And so we pull up to the stadium and parked on Stadium Drive, and I had no idea what that meant until
Yep.
many years later. Um, but we went in, and I was just taken aback. I mean, there was so much going on, with the cheerleaders, the band,
Mhm.
the team running out, everybody yelling, "Go to hell, Duke," over and over and over
Mhm.
during the day. And anyway, I was just having the time of my life. And it got to the beginning of the fourth quarter. It's about a minute gone in the fourth quarter, and the gentleman we went with, Dr. Rayner from Apex, he goes, "I'm sorry, guys, this game's over. Let's leave. We're going to beat the traffic out of here." I'm like, "No, I don't want to go." But being 14, I had to do what they
No
wanted to
choice.
do.
Yep.
So I kind of hung my head as we went back to the car, and we were driving back to Apex, and we got about halfway back on Highway 751, and he goes, "Well, let's just turn on the radio and see what the final score was." And it was 14-7. And
Yeah.
Carolina had just recovered a fumble, and they had the ball, with enough time left. And
Mhm.
sure enough, they came back and won 14-13. And I was so mad. I mean, I was happy that I got to go to the game, and it was a huge experience and life changer for me. But I was so mad about not staying to the end. I said to myself right then in the car, I said, "I will never leave a game early if I'm in charge. I will never do that. This will never happen to me again." And so I pretty much kept to that my whole life. But still in high school, I studied hard. I applied to UNC and got in, so I didn't have to go to a Plan B. And then, sure enough, as a freshman, It was Carolina Duke again at the end of the season. We were trailing Duke. We had like a couple minutes left, and there was like one final play where it was like a few seconds left from the 10-yard line, and they ran a draw play to Amos Lawrence. Amos Lawrence scores. We end up winning over Duke again. And so I'm like, yes, this is what I'm all about now. Stay until the end. And so that's how I open up the book. I also talk about, kind of at the end, one of my favorite stories is what happened on Franklin Street the night of the 1982, national championship celebration for Dean Smith and Michael Jordan. And at the time, I was living at it was called Townhouse Apartments then, very close to Franklin Street. It's called the Union now. They've since tore it down and rebuilt it as the Union. But we watched the game there and quickly made it up to Franklin Street. And, I talk about all the people that had paint cans or paint brushes, painting shirts and clothes and people, their skin, toilet paper rolling the trees. There were people, suddenly started standing up on the cars and rocking those back and forth. It was just, chaos. So I mentioned all that and a few other funny things that happened that evening. So that's kind of how I closed the book.
The paint is, and that's, you say that, it reminded me. I was in school in '93. I was in the middle of my
another good year.
93, yeah, and it was one of those things. It was raining. '93 that night. It was raining, and I remember running because I lived in Carmichael at the time, and I remember running. We ran to Franklin Street. I watched it in the lounge area of the dorm, and we all ran up to Franklin Street. And I had just the basic, the gray sweatshirt that said North Carolina on it, the basic one. I think
another one.
It got paint on it. I had Carolina blue paint all over the back and the shoulder of it.
Okay.
I couldn't, and the thing about it is after years later now, I'm like, where did that daggone paint come from? And you said paint, and you talked about the paint. It just made me think about it. And I wish I still had that sweatshirt. It got lost in one of my moves.
Oh no, that's a shame.
So I lost that sweatshirt. I wish I still had it.
That's a shame.
But you said that, it made me think of the paint because I didn't recall paint. I don't remember paint, but I don't remember anything about there being paint. But yeah, there was paint on it. So the thing that one of the things, and I'll admit, like I said, I have the book. Awesome.
Yeah.
I have not been able to start it yet.
Okay.
I've not, other than reading. I think before this, I'd read the first little bit, the intro and the genesis of it all part, and my why, and just read those so far. I haven't had time to get down and read the other one. I've thumbed through it just to kind of see. I did thumb through it to see how it was and how you were kind of set up with things. The thing I found interesting. Okay, so you didn't set out to do the book. The book you mentioned, you just said the book was something somebody suggested when you were at a volleyball. I think you said volleyball one time.
That's correct.
But you did say, but you had already been doing the notes and taking the notes on stuff. What was just so you could help remember it and make where did the notes
so
come from?
What I started off with is I was going to just do like a big Word document and give it to my grandchildren. That's all I was going to do.
Gotcha.
Give it to my two kids.
And you mentioned that for your grandkids. Yep.
Yeah, and so because I had some of these stories that before I leave the earth, I wanted them to have my stories from my days in Carolina, because I'm hoping they'll go to Carolina someday, and it will be some fun memories for them to try to relive or revisit the places I went to or the things I did. Maybe they do the same thing on their own time down the road. So I was planning to write it up, so to speak, but just in like a Word document and send them a printout of it. But my neighbor Dan said, it would be a book, and so I kept thinking about it. And when it got close to the end of the year, I said, I might as well pursue this, because I thought it'd be fun to learn how to do a self-published thing anyway. And I learned a ton in the process of dealing with Amazon as well. So it was fun along the way for sure.
Yeah. I found your approach when you just starting out. That's when, like you said, I found the approach and how you went about it, not even with the book, not even being an initial thought. I just found that really interesting in the taking the note stuff. And it's, that's, I'm reading through this stuff and I'm like, yeah, that did happen. Cause I mean, as many stuff I go to half the time now, I mean, you've been a year later and I've forgotten what happened. I've forgotten what happened to the stuff like even last year, this past season.
Yeah, I can vouch, Jeff. You were at a lot of these events too. So
I do remember one thing. You were talking about I thought about this yesterday, and it was just, this is random as all get out. But you were talking about, you said it now where you were earlier when you were taking the picture, and because I remember seeing the pictures of like part of your face and the stuff. I think it was volleyball. We were volleyball, and you were actually behind me.
Yes.
And you took a picture, and it's like me from behind. And I made a comment.
Yes.
I'd been growing my hair out after my surgery. I hadn't cut my hair, and I thought about this last night actually because I was looking myself in the mirror, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I really do need a haircut." And then I thought about that picture, and I thought about that picture. And I went back and looked at it in my phone. I was like, and I thought that was long. So that was a random aside that I just thought about that because I remember laughing. I actually remember laughing with you about my hair needing a haircut at the time. I think I said something to you about.
I had the exact seat behind you, and then I posted that photo, and then I tapped you on the shoulder and said hello. And
it's it's fun for me. It's been fun for me to see you in a lot of stuff anyway. Because I've always fashioned, I mean, I've always thought of myself as a pretty big supporter of Carolina and going to stuff. But and I said it when the book. I think I quote tweeted the stuff on the book when I guess at some point I quote tweeted about the book, and I said the ultimate Tar Heel, and I truly do. I truly believe that you are the ultimate Tar Heel. And it's the book is awesome. It's just I can't wait to really get into it and actually it'll help remind me of some of this stuff on some of the stuff I went to and be able to relive it a little bit and say, oh yeah, that did happen then. So it's just cool. What was your biggest surprise along the way on this journey? What caught you by surprise the most?
I would say a couple things. One is I have great empathy for the rowing team because of their situation. And by that, I mean, they're like the only team that doesn't have the ability to practice on campus per se.
Mm-hmm.
So for their routine, they're like up very early in the morning. They catch a bus at either Carmichael or, outside the Blue Zone. They have this 20-minute plus drive to Jordan Lake. They get off the bus. It's like not even daylight yet, and they're on the water doing their workouts. And they don't have, I'll say, a good, boathouse there. So I really have a lot of empathy for their situation. I know it's a non-revenue sport, and it's probably one that, not many people would go seek their way to find it. But they work hard. Those girls work so hard. They've got incredible stamina. And that was one of the things that super impressed me, just being on the lake and close to their boat as they're coming across the finish line, just how hard they're working, sprinting to the finish. The other funny thing I put in the book was, the coxswain, who's the person like calling out the strokes. Like they would even drop in some F-bombs near the end to get them motivated to go faster. I'm like, whoa, yes. That was so cool.
That rowing is, I'm from this area, but I'm from Durham. I mean, grew up in Durham, except for, I think 8 months I lived in Texas and my dad was in the military, but he didn't travel. He was active duty National Guard. So he worked mainly out of Raleigh. But then he got stationed at the Pentagon. So I went to high school in Northern Virginia, and crew rowing is a huge high school sport. My rowing was huge at my high school. And it was the same thing. I mean, you're right. It's the same kind of thing. They can't practice right at school. They had to take a bus to the Potomac, which is not far, but still they had to take a bus to the Potomac, and they had to do all that stuff. And actually, one of my girlfriends in high school was on the team, and that's a tough daggone sport, man. It really is. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, you got the way you have to turn the art of getting the oars and getting them in so they cut through the water right. And if you don't do it right, that thing will snap back at you pretty quickly. It's a crazy sport, and it's funny that you said that, because then I can kind of remember. I can remember my thoughts on it from high school, and it being as big a sport as it was in my high school. So,
yeah, that was one thing that surprised me. Another thing that surprised me is just the quality of the facilities we've got, because like I had never been to the women's tennis center since it was revamped and refurbished. That's just incredibly tuning tennis
awesome
center, incredibly beautiful,
awesome facility.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I've never seen anything as nice as that. And then later in the year, going to some of the ACC tournament in Cary, it's like by comparison, I mean, wow, it's really weak in Cary compared to what we've got here.
I know.
Karen Shelton Stadium, incredibly beautiful. It's unmatched. I mean, there's no other facility like that in the U.S. And Coach Matson's one of her sayings is Carolina field hockey sets the standard in the U.S., and it really does.
It really does.
Incredibly nice.
Pesky Northwestern, but yeah.
Northwestern,
but yeah.
I don't think I'd ever been to a golfing event either, but seeing the teams on Finley Golf Course after they've refurbished that, super nice. One day I was there for the men's golf event, and I saw this golf cart, and there was a sign on it that said Bill Belichick, and I thought, is he going to be here? And this was the same day that they had the Practice Like a Pro, and I happen to know one of the guys that was there that works at Finley, and he goes, yeah, he decided to come out. He wanted to see David Ford, tee off and do a couple of holes, because David Ford, Patterson Medal winner, had a great year. He won like 5 tournaments during the year. And so I looked up, and there he was. I mean, he was at the golf tournament at the first hole watching David Ford tee off. So that was a cool moment.
He was National Player of the Year last year too, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah.
I think he was National Men's Golf Player of the Year. Yep.
He raked in a ton of awards. He's got a very bright future ahead.
Yeah, he does.
I'd say the other thing that surprised me, Jeff, is just the quality of people we have in our programs, from the coaches to the assistant coaches to the athletes. I mean, all the coaches I've had the pleasure to meet, they are super motivated to advance their sport, to put their sport in the best light possible, to win in their sport, and to do it the right way. It's just incredibly impressive. And then the student athletes, there's so many incredible stories for how some of these folks got to where they are, the sacrifices they've made to excel in what they're doing, and just great stories. Team by team by team. It's just amazing.
Yeah, no, that's a huge point too. That I try to, as I'm trying to publicize and bring and kind of shed light on the Olympic sports. That's one of the things that's hit me is what you're saying there about the quality of the coaches, the staff, and the athletes. You're right. Yeah, that's phenomenal. We're lucky. I mean, I say it a lot. We are really blessed to be Tar Heels and to get
Absolutely.
and to get to witness what we witness. So truly are. What was your and you actually kind of touched on it. You hit some of my questions as you were going initially, without even which this is fine. Saves me from talking a little bit. But you hit on some of them. But what is the biggest? And you said your favorite. You said the remind me again. Okay, what's your favorite? Probably your favorite event out of this. What
Yeah,
did you say again?
yeah. My favorite event for the fall was certainly the women's soccer national championship
Soccer, right,
game, that
right.
College Cup weekend,
Okay.
because of all the difficulty they had with finding
Right,
players
gotcha.
and
Yep.
returning players. They had just the right combination. Everybody bought in. Uh, they went on 18-1 scoring run in the
Yep.
final 6 games. Beat Duke in the semifinal.
It's always good.
Got 3 goals. Beat Wake Forest 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
Just seeing that success, that was certainly one of my favorite events of the fall. If we go to the spring, I would say like the baseball ACC tournament at Durham Bulls Athletic Park was certainly one of my favorites. Another funny thing I saw, like at the softball games, there was a parent of one of the seniors. His name was Joe Myrtle,
Yep.
and
I
Joe.
love the story. I love the story, man. Go ahead. I love the
And
story.
so anyway, like at one of the during the between the innings, that the stadium DJ would play Narcos,
Yep.
and Joe started like doing like air trumpet to the song, and he's got a lot of hip action in his performance, and
Mm-hmm.
people started liking it. But over successive days and successive events and home games, he started adding more and more to his presentation.
Yep.
So one game, he had some glitter in his pockets, and he pulled that out and threw that in the air. Um, he also had um, some helpers, and they had like a confetti gun. And so, like at the crescendo of the song, they fired off the confetti gun,
Mm-hmm.
and then the wind took the confetti through the fence and onto the field. And so the umpire stopped the game and made the team come over and clean up all the confetti
I
off the
remember
field
seeing. I
before they
remember
could
seeing that when it happened. I
resume
remember.
play.
I remember seeing about that when it happened too. Yeah.
That was so funny. But anyway, Joe Myrtle, I mean, I know his daughter was a senior, and I hate that
Yep.
he's not going to be there. I'm assuming he won't keep coming, but
Yeah.
it was worth going to the softball game just to see him do his skit. I mean, that was
It's
so
awesome.
funny.
Yeah. I again, something else I'd forgotten about that. I remember seeing that too, and yeah, I'd actually completely forgotten about him doing that. That was funny. So, um, so I guess now that you've done this, I would assume you're still gonna, you're not gonna chronicle it anymore, but you're still hitting. Are you still obviously gonna try to hit everything possible, like you have been, or are you gonna?
So I said to myself, okay, that was like a lot of time doing the 225, but it was so much fun, Jeff. I mean,
Right.
I had so much fun doing it. And that's why I recommend to you and everybody else, please try and beat the 225 number, because you'll have so much fun along the way. I told
Yeah.
myself I was going to take it easy this year, and
Yeah.
I'm not quite at the pace I was a year ago. I think I'm
Right.
about maybe 7 games back from last year. Um, but at the same time, during the run to 225, there were like 5 baseball and softball games that got canceled due to weather and weren't made
Yep.
up.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
then I got the flu one weekend, so I like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I missed 5 things. So there's another 10 games, that I could have gone to if things
Dang.
had, gone my way. So I'm within striking distance, but I don't think I'll be able to make it back to 225, because I do have like a family vacation planned
Gotcha.
during the season in the spring that's gonna knock me out for 5, 6,
Yeah.
7 games. But I am still going to as many as I can, and I mean, if I hit 200, that'll be another fun thing. But yeah, I'm not trying to document it as much this year, but
You
people
still
get
doing?
sick of me.
You still doing the notes? Are you still
Not
keeping
as
notes
much.
and stuff?
No,
Not as much.
I'm
Okay.
not doing that. I not taking notes as furiously as I was. I'm not doing that either.
Okay. That's, yeah, I was going to say, I mean, everything I'm ever at, I can always look and I can always look and I'll see you somewhere in there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
I know you're going to be there. It's kind of comforting. It's weird, but it's kind of comforting seeing you and Rusty too, because Rusty's there. I know Rusty's
Right.
right along with you on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to think. I honestly
Jeff,
don't know if I had any other questions. Really, I think
yeah,
you hit everything. I just
yeah, just a couple other things then. So one
yeah,
of the things I talk about in the book is I've been a ticket stub collector since I was a sophomore at UNC, going back to 79, 80.
mm-hmm.
And I have like these 2 or 3 2-liter Ernest and Julio Gallo wine bottles that I
Yep.
would stuff my tickets in. And so one of the things I said I would do in my first year of retirement is unpack that oldest bottle of tickets and see what was in there. And
Yeah.
so I got a bottle cutter for Christmas and watched the video of how to do it. And so I cut the top of the bottle off, and I went in and I thought for sure that I had a bunch of tickets from men's basketball Carmichael home games from that Michael Jordan freshman year. And so I went through and sorted them out, like basketball in a pile,
Mm-hmm.
football in a pile. And sure enough, I came across, I think I had like 8 of the 10 home games, including a blue-white ticket stub and a Yugoslavia game exhibition stub. And so, I know Rusty had a couple of valuable ticket stubs, and he had actually sold them through Heritage Auction. So I got his contact, and I contacted Heritage Auction. And I said, "Here's what I've got," and they basically said that Michael Jordan memorabilia is still as popular as it ever was, and they thought I could get a few K dollars for those tickets. So I actually had 2 sets of them. I sent one set in to sell, and it came out pretty good. I did quite well on that, and that's all explained in the book as
Right.
well, in terms of how I identified them. And the other thing that was shocking to me was I also had the ticket stubs from Kenan Stadium from that 1980 ACC championship year, which was like the last one for UNC.
The last one
and,
for us. Yep.
and I had either all of those or all but one of those. And I was talking to the guy. I said, "Hey, what about these?" And he's like, "Nobody wants those." So
No,
I just kept those.
yeah. 80 is the first. And when I think back and think about my first memories of Carolina stuff, that 80 season is actually the first football season, is the first football memories I have, or the first football memories I actually have. That
Wow,
East,
you peaked
that
early
East,
then, Jeff. You peaked early.
did. I know, man. That's just I was like 7 at the time. So yeah,
That's old enough to remember.
I was 7 during that season. It's weird. My memory is crazy sometimes. Some of the things I can't remember, and then some of the things I do remember is just odd. Like probably everybody's like that, but man, yeah, like the ECU ticket stuff from that year when we just I mean, what Kelvin scored like 8 million touchdowns and handed the ball to Steve
6 is
Streeter
my
in the end.
recollection, but
Yep. Handed the
that was
ball
a
to
special
Streeter in
day.
the end zone after he had his accident. That's my first that is actually my first football memory, is that game.
Okay, that's a
And
good one.
and Kelvin taking the ball and handing it to Steve Streeter. That's
Yeah,
that's the thing I remember the most, or the
I
first
was
thing I
there for
remember.
that. That was an
I
incredible
was,
memory.
yeah, and I
Also.
was my parents were Rams Club members when I was a kid, and I don't know why they quit doing it, but they did. And they used to, yeah, I mean, I remember going to that stuff, and they used to go to some of the bowl trips back then and leave me with my grandparents and go to like the Blue Bonnet Bowl and stuff like that when we played out there. We played in Texas and that. And I forgot my question. Completely forgot my question.
Yeah.
Oh no, I did. I got it. You talking about tickets. And I love that. I mean, I've got like a couple of shoe boxes that are in storage in my garage that have like ticket stubs from all kinds of stuff. So I get that. Now, with digital ticketing now, do you pay the extra and get the printed tickets still since you're a ticket store person? Or are you giving that up and go digital?
I have done that for football, but not anything else.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe I did for basketball too. But they don't really put the time into the ticket design. It's just like
Yeah.
generic words.
And they're tiny now too, by the way.
Yeah.
Like the basketball ticket, because my buddy of mine I go to basketball games with a lot of times. His family is big Rams club, and they have, he doesn't live in town anymore, but he gets roughly half the tickets a year. And his mom is the one that gets them. She still gets, I mean, with the distance and her living in Kentucky and him in Asheville and all this stuff, it'd be easier to handle to have digital and be able to do the transfer. Nope. She gets the paper tickets and the paper people's passes and all that stuff, the hard card stuff, all these things. And like the tickets this year, the basketball tickets are tiny.
Yeah.
I wish they're upstairs. Mine are upstairs. I don't have them down here. They're so small now. I'm like, gracious.
But yeah, COVID killed the paper ticket world and destroyed my ticket collection. Kind of cut it off. So I was disappointed with that, but I do still grab them when I can for football and basketball at least.
Yeah, it's I mean it's one of those things. It's not, the convenience is nice, I guess. I mean the convenience of the digital is nice, but yeah, it definitely takes away from the nostalgia of it anyway, especially. Cool, man.
A couple of the special events I was able to go to. Julius Peppers was in town for his Hall of Fame, kind of UNC celebration.
Yep.
So I was fortunate enough to get an invite to that, and actually got to meet him and shake hands with him briefly at the football building.
I saw that picture when I was thumbing through there. That's cool.
So that was a lot of fun. Then, at the end of the year, I was able to meet Belichick finally, and I had to wait. There was like people circling around him, and I had to wait for them to peel off, and so it took a few minutes for me to finally get there. But I had taken my 1980 football ticket stubs to show him, and I said, "Hey, Coach, this was the last year we won the championship," and I said we had a really good. And then he cut me off and started telling the things I was going to tell him. He started feeding it back to me. He goes, you had a great defense with Lawrence Taylor. You only gave up 120 points for the season, and 45 of those were against Oklahoma away. And, you had this player and that player. And I was like a little bit blown away because I had all this stuff I was
football history.
him, and he'd already memorized it all. I mean, I don't know if he heard it from LT maybe at practice one day when they were with the Giants or what.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
He had all these facts in his head already. So I was a little bit impressed by that. It's I think the football season maybe was a little disappointing this year in a couple of respects. I mean, I knew with 70 new players that it was going to be tough. I personally had predicted like 8-4. And so
I think that's actually what I said too. I think that was my prediction too. So, yeah.
And so the things we were told was, even if the personnel aren't where they need them to be yet, a Bill Belichick based team is going to be super disciplined and good on special teams, and they won't commit dumb personal fouls. And so the way it played out was, we got out coached on a bunch of plays that decided the games.
Yeah,
we had a bunch of crazy penalties, and we weren't as disciplined as we should have been, and we did get out schemed a bit. So I was really surprised. I guess that was the reason for my disappointment for year one. Is like not the we only won 4 games. It's that the way we lost a lot of those games was made us look like novices instead of multiple Super Bowl winning champion coaching staff.
I said those very same things you just said about, hey, we might not, the talent might not be there, but we're going to get all, we're going to be disciplined and we're not going to be out coached. I said the same exact stuff going into the season. That was word for word. That was my expectation on it. And yeah, I mean, and a lot of people probably. So yeah, we were obviously there. And there's going to be a lot of new people again this year. I mean, So
Yeah, it does appear that way. But if we get the recruiting class shows up that's been
great
signed and we
class.
can
Yeah.
keep them, and
Yeah.
a lot of those guys will be like contributors immediately. I mean, I'm
Well, as he said
optimistic
it,
that
as
the
he said
recruit
it, found. I think what he said when he talked about when he did the signing day press conference, he talked about the foundation pieces. He quite literally called them the foundation pieces, which, hey, ideally they will be. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, that's fine. So I mean, I'm fine to give another year, but there's got to be some marked improvement next year. Otherwise, I think a lot of people are going to become disenchanted with
More so than our, yeah,
with
I mean, yeah,
Walter. Yeah,
yeah. The
exactly.
defenders are going to get tired of it on that, because there's plenty of people that have already jumped off that ship, or jumped off the ship. Some people were never on it to start with, really, with him. But I agree with you. I'm right there with you. I'm good
Yeah.
with another year, but we got to see something, and the seat's hot and the patience is running thin. So, as far as I'm concerned, so
Absolutely.
What else? Anything else that you wanted to highlight specifically from
Well,
anything?
I just appreciate the time to be able to come on to the Hills Brothers show with you, Jeff, especially, and talk through the book, and it was just again so much fun going to all these events. I was super happy to get to all 28 sports in one year. I also went to a JV basketball game, and I went to a couple of men's ice hockey games as well.
Hockey is fun too. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm excited
so
for the new facility they're talking about.
that'll be great
Yeah.
for sure. And I didn't go to more hockey games because like they would compete at the Hillsborough Sportsplex, and they would have like a 10:15 start time.
I was going to say
So-
that's exactly what I was getting ready to say. That what about the start times on those out there? Because that's the
yeah,
only time they could get them at the Sportsplex.
yeah.
That's
It's hard to get ice time.
yeah,
So
yeah,
imagine that facility once it's built, and if they can have a 5, 6, 7 p.m. start time, I mean, they will draw a
yeah.
lot of fans, I think, to that,
I think so. I think so as
especially in the
well.
new location. So very competitive series with NC State. The thing I went to was called the Governor's Cup
The Governor's
between
Cup. Yep.
NC State and UNC, and like the governor or the former governor is there to drop the first puck, and
Yeah.
that's just like any NC State UNC. It's like NC State baseball, football. I mean, that is a hot rivalry. Those guys want to beat the crap out of each other, and
I
they
mean,
just
they played in Carter Finley one year. Yeah.
Yep. I
They,
didn't
they
make it to
didn't.
that one, but I
Yeah,
know a bunch of people that did
I didn't make
go.
that one. I didn't make that one either, but I found that interesting
Yeah.
because NHL has an outdoor game every year, and I thought it was really interesting when Carolina
Yeah,
State did
that's
it.
a great
But
setup. It really is.
we've lost the Governor's Cup 2 years in a row now. We just lost it again this year. We're not doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd actually hockey actually had been pretty. We'd actually been sneaky good the last few years, and we had a coaching change, and I don't know if the coaching change. I don't know. We did have a coaching change, and yeah, this season so far it's been pretty bad. So anyway,
Yeah. So
it's a shame the JV basketball is now gone. That's one of the things that I had a room. Well, it started out as a suite mate in college, and then a roommate in my apartment my senior year played JV basketball at Carolina, and it's a shame that program's gone now because of the new scholarship stuff. So
that's disappointing for sure. So I was glad I was able to get one of those in the last year the team had the team was around. Yeah, so good stuff. But anyway, just a ton of fun to go to the 225 events and cover all 28 sports. I learned a ton along the way. I found where the rowing facility was. I got to see all these other beautiful facilities. Any of these good weather days, it was just so nice to be outside in the fresh air, and it's very inspiring to me. So I will highly recommend this experience to anyone. And Jeff, if anybody can get to 226, I think it's probably you, man. You're close, and you've got the desire. I think it could be you.
I run into some. It's not. It'll be a few years. It'll be a few years before
Okay.
my thing. I run into it now is I've got my youngest daughter who is still in high school is a volleyball player, and now with school volleyball over, but now she plays club ball, and the practice schedule and the travel schedule.
Yeah, these
The
travel
travel schedule
things,
for the travel
very
schedule
demanding.
for tournaments, it like between practice and those things, it kills Sunday baseball games until like mid-April. I can't do anything. I can't do anything on Sundays hardly. It's lucky.
I'm gonna be a good dad.
I'm lucky if I can do anything on Sunday. So I'm not gonna hit. You know what? I'd like to do it one day. I might try to do it one day and do the
All right.
and see if I can
I'm
best.
counting on you, Jeff.
But it's not gonna be. Yeah, it's gonna at least be probably. Yeah, she's a sophomore, so it's going to be a couple of years. She needs to get to college. I need to get her in college before I could probably do that. Yeah, because like
you got time to plan for it in the meantime.
I do have time to plan for it, and I wouldn't trade the. You know, I joke with her sometimes about not being able to go to stuff sometimes, which she would actually rather be there too. A lot of times she wants to be there and not at practice, but you know, anyway, it's one of those things. I'm going to try it one day, but y'all,
there you go.
The book. Find it on Amazon. You can find it on Amazon. My Carolina Quest, Deniis C. Goss, proceeds, great cause, UNC Children's Hospital. So check it out. I can't, like I said, I've only thumbed through it and only read the first little bit, but I'm going to try to get into it now.
Jeff, that's what my granddaughters did. They got the book and they thumbed through it and found a picture of them, and then they were done.
They're like, yes, I'm in the book. I made it. Here's my picture. I'm out. I'm out. No, as I was looking through it, though, like I said, I was really impressed with the note taking that you did on it. And you know, it wasn't just, you know, it wasn't just, oh, I went to these games. There's a lot of stuff in here. A lot of stuff in here. The section on BDOT, which I thought was pretty cool. I just saw that today. Just now as I was looking at it, I thought that section on BDOT was pretty cool. But yeah, man. Anything else?
No, Jeff. Just thanks again for having me in your forum. Thanks to the Hills brothers for reaching out.
It's one of those things. It's
I love what you guys do.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. You know, I thought it'd be great to talk to you anyway, and talk to you about it. And I know, I think you've done a couple other ones already too, interviews with stuff. But any chance to talk about it, and then again, give some publicity to it because it is such a good cause. So that's really one of the bigger things for me. So, man, I appreciate you.
Right.
It's you know, fun talking to you. It's fun always seeing you at games. Always look forward to like I said, to look across Carmichael and especially Carmichael and stuff now and look over there and see you sitting over there and
there you go.
Keep doing what you do, man. And I'm gonna try to get there. I'm gonna try to get there one day to that magical
That's
number.
awesome.
See if I can't best it. Like I said, give me a couple years, but I'm gonna work at it.
I got you.
All right, man.
All right. Thanks,
guys. And as we always do, as we close out, you know, thank you for listening. Thank you for y'all for listening to this. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe, hit the like, Hill Brothers. Check out the YouTube channel and all the other stuff we've got going on. And we always close it out with, and as always, go Heels.
Go Heels.